Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. It's time to make some trades. Welsh and I are going to look ahead, and some big names might be on the trade block to trade away and to acquire. Let's start here with one buy low, Welsh, as we look at Corbin Carroll. Now, I know that's a player most people might not be thinking, well, Corbin Carroll, he can't be had right now necessarily. He's had a great season. Well, he's had a really good season in terms of counting stats, but the last 30 games for Corbin Carroll have not been kind. He does have 7 homers and 5 steals, which is great. We love that. He also has 33 strikeouts, just 11 walks over that span, hitting just 207 with a 287 OBP and a 448 slugging. Welsh, Corbin Carroll has not really looked like that version of himself that we saw in the first month of the season. It feels like there's a window where you might be able to acquire him after some frustrations coming off a bad May.
Yeah, with elite players, I tend to think there's like different steps. There's like, all right, this guy is untouchable. You can't even talk to me. You have to give up something ridiculous. Then there's a step down where that guy struggles. And now the person, maybe you're not getting a discount in a trade, but now they're willing to move it. Then you go down and you can figure out where the rest of those steps go to, where it's more discount. I think Corbin has moved off. So he was in that first territory when he was like, MVP candidate this year. Then he moved a little bit into that. All right, now I'll listen. I think he's now potentially moving into, I might consider a little bit of a discount, because that 30-day marker is very telling. I mean, and frankly, as a buyer, you should be a tiny bit concerned when you look at stuff like that. He's hitting 214 if you count in today, if you're going, from literal 30 days, May 1st up to here. So it's a little bit more than 30, that he's hitting 214. The strikeout rate is immense. But the thing to keep in mind is, getting that extra consideration. The Diamondbacks have just been in a whirlwind of chaos, that Corbin Carroll is still this really phenomenal player that made significant changes to kind of mitigate those issues he had up in the zone last year. And, he has more than doubled his barrel rate, over 50% hard hit rate. The strikeouts have gone up a little bit, but the profile is still fantastic. Batting average on some of the lower stuff is underperforming, about a 40 to 50 decrease in what he's actually hitting versus, or I guess it would be an increase, versus his expected. So he is expected to hit much better against breaking and off-speed pitches. That I think I want to take the opportunity, while the Diamondbacks are completely falling apart here, while Carroll is on a 30-day bender that every fantasy owner wants to forget, that I think I want to try to open up those floodgates to the owner that's a little bit scared. You're going to have to get out a big trade, but I think this is a really good time to buy Corbin Carroll with that power, probably steal some more bases, and I think we can get that batting average back up here in the near future.
Speaking of stolen bases, if you're looking to acquire some on the cheap, I want to direct you to Victor Scott. Now, I know the last month, again, not been kind to Victor Scott either. We can argue that, but he's still playing every day. 16 stolen bases so far on the year, so he is on pace to push 40 this season. And there's an opportunity here where, if you're in head-to-head roto or season-long roto and you're a little light in the stolen base category, because Victor Scott has struggled a little bit with contact of late, there's a chance that he could be had in a trade. So, Welsh, are you somebody that's looking to trade for Victor Scott in that scenario?
Yeah, if I'm looking for stolen bases, I think it's definitely on the table. He's like really underperforming against lefties. He's got some lefty struggles this year, which the problem might be it could become more platoony more than anything else. His batting average has dipped over the first couple months, but I think like defensively, he's just so valuable. The stolen bases, even in some of these struggles, those 16 stolen bases and 256 average, it's telling us a lot. His expected numbers are lower, which is a little bit of a concern as well. 239 expected batting average with high strikeouts, but he has tripled his walk rate this year, and he is built around those stolen bases. So here would be the thing. In a cool world, you're hoping like, oh, hey, Victor Scott is a guy that not only does get stolen bases, but it's a good average, scores a bunch of runs, maybe chips in some homers, and now he's not a singular player. Well, guess what? Because he's struggling right now, he could probably be bought as a singular player, as a stolen base only player. So then the upside is if he can increase, that batting profile, then he can get back to being like higher runs, higher batting average, chip in those homers. But you can probably get him at like, I'm just buying a singular stat guy, and those come at a much lower cost. And then the worst case is he's just a singular stolen base guy, and you've paid that price for him, and it helps out your team.
Now, pitchers are dropping like flies, unfortunately, because, well, it's Major League Baseball. One guy who's still floating around there, giving you some decent work, but not going deep into games, is Freddy Peralta. He hasn't gone into the 6th inning since actually the 4th of May. That's a month ago. And I think that you can see the Brewers team starting to pick up pace a little bit. Jackson Churio starting to hit better. You're seeing Christian Yelich really start to come around recently too. I still say the Brewers are the team to beat for this division. I do think a big second half is coming. Therefore, I think this is a unique time to buy on Freddy Peralta. All the metrics on him are still good. He's still striking out, K per 9. That's where he's at. That's where you want him to be. 9 Ks per 9. He's got a whip at 1.17 and a 2.77 ERA. But again, because he hasn't really racked up a lot of quality starts nor pitched deep into games, his numbers aren't really eye-popping. I think it's kind of a guy floating in the middle who has a lot of good second half potential, especially as the Brewers, I think, are poised for a bigger second half of the season.
Yeah, I think he's kind of tough because here's the only thing that's holding you back. I do agree with that sentiment that like he's kind of floating around in the middle. Like he's not an elite pitcher. He kind of sits, but here's the thing that holds him back. And when we're talking about, it's not necessarily have to be buy lows, but buys, he's got a 2.7 ERA. So he's got a 2.7 ERA with 5 wins so far this year. That's not going to come at some super cheap cost. If he had like a 3.5 ERA, then I think people would be like, oh, it's just Freddie again. So that worries me about the cost because I will say he has an almost full run expected ERA higher than where he's at. He's got a 3.57 expected ERA and his strikeouts are down actually year over year. But I also think what that does is that opens up that there might be still a lot more potential in the bank. I'd love to see the walks come down. That would make me feel really great. We did see month over month, the ERA didn't really change a ton, but one thing we did see was his whip inflated really, really big. And that's something you worry about with the walks. But we've also seen Peralta go on these crazy runs. So I'm into buying him, but you're going to have to subvert the person who's selling you on the 2.7 ERA. That needs to go away a little bit and hope that he truly is in the middle when you're buying him, because I do think there's more strikeout potential. And if the Brewers do become the force of this division, it will be thanks to Freddy Peralta for sure.
Yeah, I agree. There's more strikeouts in there too. We've seen that from Freddie P before. One note too on a dynasty buy low. So we're getting outside the redraft streets for a moment, switching gears to dynasty. I think Jordan Lawlar is a really intriguing buy low right now. I can't imagine the frustrations of someone who has been a manager of Jordan Lawlar, who's been patient through the injuries, patient through the call-ups, and then sent down again. It feels like the Arizona Diamondbacks, as we wait on the precipice of the Corbin Burns news probably not being good, that the Diamondbacks might be a team in transition. And if they are, they're going to probably be looking to move some guys. Maybe a veteran like Eugenio Suarez could be on the block, in which case Lawlar will get another look at some point sooner than later. I think now is an intriguing time to buy on him in those scenarios because people are frustrated with how things have gone this year. He's been great in the minor leagues. He's finally healthy, but he's just not getting the playing time or the opportunity. I think that's going to change in the second half of this season. And I think this might be a great window to acquire him in a keeper or dynasty scenario. Lawlar's a guy you've watched forever, Welsh. What do you think of my take on him?
Yeah, I like the theory of this because they will trade Eugenio Suarez unless the Diamondbacks start to go on a run and they can get back this division and Corbin Burns isn't out for the year. They're going to have to sell off pieces. And I think it will start with two. It'll start with Zach Allen and Eugenio Suarez because you've clearly got a piece in Jordan Lawlar that needs to come up and play regularly. I'm a little worried still about, Torey Lovell. They talk so glowingly about Lawlar. They're like, oh, and then he comes up and when they send him down, Lovell is like, yeah, he's got a big issue with breaking pitches. We saw it in AAA and he still was awful against right-handers here. And you're just like, whoa, why didn't you work on it? Like, let's work on that. So I'm a little bit worried about what this year's production is going to look like, even with regular playing time. But I would point out to people is like, look at those AAA numbers. Like, he can hit for power. He can aggressively steal. He can hit for average. There are just some adjustments that need to be made. And we're talking dynasty. So I really like the idea because you're like in like post hype sleeper. The dude debuted in 2023 and has not lost his rookie status. That's crazy. It's 2025. Yeah. So I think there's definitely like a pushback on anyone like overvaluing him anymore, even after that awesome season to kind of a failed major league debut this year, that I'm very much with this take, but there's some inherent risk with it. So make sure you're just getting a nice discount on Lawlar.
All right, before we look ahead to the sells potentially on the block this week, don't forget about the trade analyzer at FantasyPros. It's one of the great tools we have. You can instantly evaluate if a trade benefits your team or your opponent and see how potential trades will affect each team's stats and starting lineups. Make informed trade decisions today with the trade analyzer on FantasyPros MLB My Playbook or at fantasypros.com/MLB My Playbook. Go get the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook today. Download the app. It's free. It's easy. and it's going to help you make all the deals that you need. Let's talk about a guy at the very top of the board at home runs. Do I want to rush to trade Cal Raleigh? No, the walk rate has increased. He has been an incredible value at his ADP. And right now you're sitting pretty in the standings probably if you had Cal Raleigh, because he has been absolutely spectacular this year. You look at the Baseball Savant page, I can't really pick it apart. Yeah, sure, he strikes out still, but he's walking more. That's good. I guess you can look, Welsh, though, at the bigger picture. And first 2 years for Cal Raleigh in 03 and 04, you had a guy who's, kind of got like a 750 OPS. Right now that OPS is at 1,016, and he's got 23 home runs. He had 34 last year. That's almost 2/3 of his total already. So it feels like there's got to be some sort of downturn regression at some point. So I understand the concept of that, but what does a Cal Raleigh trade look like? Because I imagine you have to get a pretty decent catcher back and then a piece that really makes you feel good about moving off of a guy who's already at the top of the board in home runs.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to this. And this one is me pushing this out here just because Joe is even a little dicey, because it's like Cal Raleigh is incredible right now. And I likened it to what has happened if you ever play fantasy football in previous years when you have a tight end like a Travis Kelce. They're so much better than the rest of the pack. You have such a positional advantage that, you would, I don't call it overvaluing. We don't quite live in that world in fantasy baseball where like catcher is a positional advantage, where you go ballistic, maybe a tiny bit more in roto and stuff like that. But if you look at the values, if looking at like Yahoo's player rater, Cal Raleigh, I believe, is like top 10. I think he might be 5 overall. The next catcher is around 120, and that's Will Smith. So there's 100 spot difference. In the top 100, there's only one catcher of value, and that is Cal Raleigh. But I think like this statistically, we're so over the moon right now, and his value is at the peak of peak, that's why I want to look at the trade market. And I think when you ask the question, what should this trade look like? I think you're in a spot where you can ask for some version of a top 10 pitcher, some version of a top 10 outfielder, probably a top 5 infielder. And I might be selling a little bit short. He's such a positional advantage right now, if you really believe in that like that value deserves a really, really high end return. But I just think like the pacing numbers are ridiculous. They're stupid. They're not going to fall. The profile looks fantastic. But we'll point out that, like you said, there are high strikeouts. He's overperforming against a couple different pitch types as far as like the breaking pitches go. His expected batting average is 10 points lower than where it's currently at. He is going crazy. He has this, we have attack angle now. His attack angle is an 18. It's one of the highest in baseball. And due to that, he's able to pull the ball at a 40% pull ball rate, which I don't think is going to continue. And then the last thing I'll throw out to you, if you even care about this, but they have expected home run numbers on Baseball Savant. He has a 6 less expected home run total. That's a monstrous number that you don't see. I should have looked at the leaderboard. It's probably number 1. All this is to say is I just think Cal Raleigh is going to come back down to earth. I think he legitimately could hit 40 homers, but guess what? He could hit 40 homers, and that means he only hits 17 homers the rest of the season. So if you have a catcher that is valued in the top 10 or 15 overall, and you can maximize it by going and buying a Corbin Carroll, or you can go and buy a high-end pitcher that someone is down on, maybe even a Dylan Cease, I think I can better my team across the board, and I can obviously not be able to fully replace Cal Raleigh because of his positional advantage, but I think I would take a look at picking up another catcher, Agustin Ramirez, and trying to sell off a Cal Raleigh on a high.
Yeah, I agree. The pace right now, 64 home runs, 125 RBI for Cal Raleigh. That seems a little inflated there. And I get that. And on top of it, too, he is a catcher. And if you look at the career stats, he does fade a little bit in the second half, like most catchers do. The old Brian McCann theory. Like, he used to always be great in the first half. And then, boy, July 1st, you look to sell Brian McCann because you want to make sure that you are getting out before the wear and tear of a season takes its toll on a catcher, and it does. Rhys Hoskins, another guy to talk about real quick. The counting stats look good. 9 homers. He's getting a lot of positive buzz, hitting 265 on the year, 815 OPS. But I want to point out, in the last 15 games, he's taken a downturn. The power has still been there, but he's hitting just 214 with a 464 slugging percentage. The on-base percentage, under 300, just 281. Hoskins is typically a very streaky player. He's on a down streak. Now would be a time to sell Cal Raleigh. 2 more guys, to sell Rhys Hoskins potentially, if you don't believe or if you have an excess of first base corner guys. 2 pitchers I want to talk about. Tyler Mahle of the Texas Rangers and Yusei Kikuchi of the Los Angeles Angels. Now, Mahle, when you look at his deeper stats, The K per 9 is still under 7 K per 9. That's not where you want it. The walk rate is at 3.27 per 9. You don't want that. I know his ERA is at 1.64 Welsh. The expected ERA is at 3.81. The expected FIP is at 4.24. To me, this is a sell for Tyler Mahle.
Yeah, we do an article every week on Fantasy Pros you guys can check out. Joe and I are usually in it. It's buys and sells, and I put Mahle in last week. So you can read up on that if you want, but I completely agree. It's super low Ks. The walks are over 9. Expected ERA is over 2 runs higher. The battle is like, what can you sell him for? But he's a 5-2 record. If you got teams that are just paying attention to the current pacing numbers and stuff like that, I would be looking to sell on Tyler Mahle because we're going to come back down to earth here in the near future.
And Yusei Kikuchi has an ERA of 3.06. His expected ERA is at 4.42. The FIP is 4.36. The xFIP is at 4.66. Not to mention the K per 9 on Kikuchi is dropped from 10.55 last year to 8.07. And then the walk rate has ballooned from 2.25 walks per 9 to 4.87. This is a just absolute dumpster fire waiting to happen. It's going to ignite at some point here. So despite the fact that Trout is back for the Angels, Kikuchi is a player that right now you look at these deeper numbers and they scream to sell. So sell while you can, while the ERAs of Mahle and Kikuchi are where they are. And of course, drop your comments below. Who are you trading for? Who are you trading away? We love to hear you. When you drop your comments too, you might win yourself a Cecil Fielder autographed jersey from pristineauction.com. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Fantasy Pros MLB. Drop your comments below. Ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications. And join us every single day for fantasy baseball content. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.